Moving on. What is supposed to happen to man during the last days? One is moral deterioration. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, 2-4 it says, "For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affections, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God." In Isaiah chapter 30 verse 10 it says, "Which say to the seers, See not, and to the prophets, Prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceit." In 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 13 it says, "But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived." In 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 3 it says, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears." In 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 7 it says, "Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth." All these things are happening today. People today are covetous. They want what someone else has. People today are proud and conceited. People today are blasphemers, like Kanye West calling himself Jesus, or the people calling the Pope or their pastors Reverend or Holy Father. People today are traitors. A person may stab a friend in the back just to have a bit of gain. And the people today are lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, because the people today rather continue in their lustful, sinful habits than give them up and live their lives by the Word of God. And because the people wish not to listen to the Word of God, but listen to smooth things or lies spoken to them by their spiritual leaders, the people become worse and continue to be deceived. By living by deception and lies, they will not want to endure the sound doctrine that the Bible speaks of, which means they will never come to the knowledge of the truth, because the people rather listen to pastors who will only tell them things that are only pleasing to the ears, basically motivational speaking. Lukewarm pastors and churches that God said in Malachi chapter 2 verse 9, "Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law." Meaning, these pastors who only speak smooth things, like Isaiah chapter 30 verse 10 says, are worthless. Because these pastors are walking partially in the law of God and partially in the world, basically mixing truth with lies, is what they are teaching to their congregation. These are the same pastors and churches that the book of Isaiah says will call themselves Christians to hide their shame. Isaiah chapter 4 verse 1. The same pastors that God says that have transgressed against him. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 27. The same pastors and churches that God tells us they have the form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away, basically telling the people to stay away from these churches. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 5. Examples of these pastors and churches are Joel Osteen and any TV program church. Sunday keeping pastors, the Ninth Hour Church, any church with a 501c3 tax deduction, on their church. And a 501c3, for those who do not know, allows the church to join with the state. It allows the government to take ownership of the church, allowing the church congregation's tithings to become voided by them using their tithings as tax write-offs every year. It also allows the leaders of the church to lobby law. and the church has to go with whatever the government demands of it. Going back to why these churches are lukewarm, it's because their pastors are in agreement that homosexual marriages are okay. Some are saying that Sunday is the true Sabbath of God. Some are saying that Allah is God. Some preach that Jesus did not come in the flesh. Many of them put their own church's creed over and above God's law to keep people in the church, and many other doctrines just to keep people in the church. Which is the reason why God says to come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Revelation chapter 18 verse 4. But the devil knows that in the last days, knowledge is supposed to increase, as stated in Daniel chapter 12 verse 4, where it says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book. Even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." But Satan is trying to stop this as much as possible by poisoning the people's minds with false doctrines, TV shows, movies, anime, video games, liquor and drugs, processed foods and drinks, pornographic movies and websites, glorifying the celebration of pagan holidays like Halloween, Easter, and Christmas, all of which keep people in sin, and they advertise the sins through lies, telling the people that the sin that they are doing are acceptable as long as they repent of them at church, or by making the masses accept sin by repeatedly putting it into their favorite TV shows, movies, cartoons, animes, and video games, and a few pagan symbols for them to think that what they are seeing is cool, reaffirming that the lie is always seen as the truth. This makes it easy to control the people through their sins by their lustful habits, which slowly gets the people to start phasing the word of God out of their lives, and also make the true believers of God be made out as haters, extremists, terrorists, and the list goes on, which keeps the masses to continue walking after their own lust, as stated in 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 3, and then also reiterated in Jude chapter 1 verse 16, where it says, "These are murmurers and complainers, walking after their own lusts, and their mouth speaketh great swelling words, having men's persons in admiration because of advantage." Since man is comfortable lusting after money, women, men, animals, children, and other sins of this world, the people would rather live willfully ignorant of the truth, as stated in 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 5, and allow their own lack of knowledge to destroy them, as stated in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6. But what is this knowledge that the Lord is speaking of in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6? In Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." Proverbs chapter 9 verse 10, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding." This knowledge that the Lord is speaking of is of himself. So by the people rejecting the knowledge of God, this means they don't fear God. And by refusing to listen to him, they choose to put their own human reasonings over God's law, which is idolatry and a sin. And I hope and pray you was blessed with what was shared to you on this day.